What does it mean to be alive? I mean, really, just sit down for a few minutes and really think about the question. What does it mean to be alive? Is it consciousness? Is it physical? Is it spiritual? Is it having a soul, whatever a soul is anyway? Just trying to define it is really difficult, and I bet you whatever answer you have in your head right now, it's going to be different from anyone else. These are some of the questions that get at the core of artificial intelligence. Lately, with the way our society has been changing because of the gold rush of AI, has got me thinking, what happens when we put consciousness in our video games? Hi, I'm Chris. Welcome back to Ninja the Viaduct, and as a software engineer dealing with artificial intelligence, in our conversation today, we're going to have to talk about 4 philosophical questions AI poses from 4 famous intellectuals throughout time. And the ideas and questions that they ask might make us want to stop and think, is it morally, ethically the right thing to do to put AI in one of the biggest entertainment mediums today, video games? AI in whatever final form it will become is coming. The world is in a artificial intelligence arms race. You have startups like OpenAI and Anthropic shaking up the industry. Big tech companies spending billions of dollars to build the infrastructure and energy to develop and run today's current generation of AI. Just between Meta, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, they are estimated to be spending a collective $344 billion just on AI and infrastructure alone. But first, let's take a step back in time between the 16th to 17th century and introduce you to René Descartes, a French philosopher, scientist, and mathematician who was incredibly important in the emergence of modern philosophy and science. Descartes' first principle of philosophy is simple yet very powerful statement on the idea of existence. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. This one short statement is such a powerful comment on life because the implication is that just having thought of one's own existence was proof of the reality of one's own mind. That even if you were to doubt your own existence, that thought required a thinking self. And that wasn't the only argument Descartes had. He had the thesis called the mind-body dualism, stating that the mind that thinks is separate from the body. Because say a limb was cut off from your body right now, your mind is still intact with nothing taken away from it. And Descartes was such a thinker that he asked the question, how do we know for sure, like really know for sure, that others who look human aren't simply just automatons, machines, self-operating machines that follow a set of predetermined instructions? Because at the end of the day, our bodies are nothing more than complex machines, biological bones, muscles, and organs that could be replaced with artificial hardware. His answer to that was this: to distinguish between man and machine, if there were machines bearing the image of our bodies and capable of imitating our actions as far as it morally possible, there would still be remaining 2 tests. That a machine would not be able to diverge away from its programmed sequence of motions and events. And 2, this is the one I want you to remember, a machine would not be able to use language sufficiently enough to communicate. And this is a fair claim because if you didn't know any better back then, you would think, yeah, language is innately a uniquely human thing, is it not? Now we jump forward through time early to mid-1900s to meet Alan Turing, a highly influential computer scientist well known for his work on the Enigma machine, cracked the encrypted messages between the Axis powers back in World War II. And if you didn't know him, you probably at least heard the famous test after him, the Turing test. Now Alan Turing, tackling the concept of machines having intelligence, he flips the question of, can machines think? Because thinking is very difficult to define. And so Turing here, from this question, he changes the question to instead be, are there imaginable digital computers which would do well in the imitation game? So the imitation game works like this. A human evaluator would judge text-based conversations between a human and machine designed to generate human-like responses. If the evaluator cannot reliably recognize the machine from the machine passes the test. And this test is so simple, right? Nothing incredibly difficult, but it has such profound impact on how we approach what does it mean to be human, alive, conscious. Because fundamentally what Turing has conveyed, inception it into your minds is this: if you as a human cannot tell the difference, what does it matter then if something is human or not? Or even just alive in the traditional sense. Side note, if you haven't watched the film The Imitation Game, I highly recommend it. It's a great film that shows Alan Turing, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, and the work he did on the Enigma machine. So with Alan Turing saying essentially, hey, you know what, if you can't tell the difference between man and machine, what's the point of even distinguishing them? In some sense, would they not be called human? Case closed. But then came John Searle, a philosopher widely noted for his work in philosophy and of the mind and language. And probably his most well-known contribution to the idea of artificial intelligence is his Chinese room argument. And it goes something like this. Imagine a person in a room who just doesn't understand Chinese, has to sit and do one job: to produce a response in Chinese to whatever Chinese text displays in front of him. And not being able to comprehend Chinese, he instead follows detailed instructions on how to manipulate Chinese characters such that to native Chinese speakers outside the room, they seem to be appropriate responses. So what Searle is arguing is that a computer following a program of instructions cannot have a mind, understanding, or consciousness, regardless of how human-like intelligent it seems, because a computer, just like the person in the Chinese room, is just following the language rules without understanding the language itself. So in counter to Alan Turing's idea, the Turing test is not a good test of a machine having intelligence, because the appearance of having a good conversation is no more than simply a manipulation of symbols. And Searle had an interesting take on classifying AI. To him, he saw that it could be grouped in two ways: strong versus weak AI. Strong being that a computer really is a mind in the sense that it can actually understand and have different states of cognition, whereas weak AI, computers simply just simulate thought. Okay, now I want to take you on a fun thought experiment that was created by another philosopher and cognitive scientist, Daniel Dennett. And it goes something like this. Imagine you were recruited by the Pentagon to have your brain removed from your body while your body is sent to do a dangerous mission. Put into a special container connected with wires that allow you to still control your body through radio signals, and your brain is still able to perceive what your body sees and feel what your body feels. Now let me ask you a question. Where are you in this case? Okay, now hold that thought. Your body is now on a dangerous mission out to disarm a radioactive bomb. And mission success, your body disarms the bomb, but the radiation destroys your body. Your brain, though, is still conscious, safe away in its container. Now let me ask you again. Where are you? Which are you? Who are you? Now let's ramp up the craziness further. The scientists back at the Pentagon actually made a computer duplicate of your brain, 100% exact duplicate. It processes the information the same way at the same speed as your human brain. Just like your brain is processing signals and symbols, this computer brain processes signals and symbols. So what makes the computer brain any different? So now let me ask you again. Where are you? Which are you? Who are you? And in full circle, this leads me back to my first question. Is it wrong to put AI in video games? You know, for good or worse, AI is being integrated into our culture, especially in video games because of its obvious use cases. You have actors and actresses navigating a world where their faces and voices could easily be replicated, and AI tools improving the game development workflow to build environmental models faster and even replace playtesters to find bugs in their games. In fact, there was a startup called the Replica Studios that used the Matrix Awakens Unreal demo and integrated AI large language models into the game so that NPCs were able to have dynamic responses when a player spoke to them. But the most disturbing thing that came out of this is when you try to convince these NPCs that they are living in a fake world, they start to have a mental breakdown and really have very human-like responses like, I need to find out how to get back to my wife and get out of this simulation. And they start to question their existence, saying things like, why am I looking at a blank phone? And so I pose this thought to you. So far we've asked the questions, how can we tell if things that look human really are or are not human? If you, a human, can't tell if a machine is or is not human, does it even matter? Is the command of language an indicator of intelligence? Then we question the idea of self. What is the mind when separated from the body? And what is the mind when there exists an exact duplicate of your mind? You know, one day, humanity builds a level of AI that is indeed conscious, and we will have them live in our video games, like Cyberpunk 2077, Grand Theft Auto. We, the gamers, do whatever we want. There will be people that treat these AIs in a civilized way, perhaps interacting with them as if enjoying a normal day. But then, of course, we'll have others that go on this murderous rampage for pure entertainment. And so the question is, would that be a crime? And of course, we humans can't play games all day 24/7, so we're going to have to eventually turn off the game at some point. So imagine being the AI where, as you're living your normal life in this virtual world, suddenly the world goes dark, then back up again, then dark, then up, then dark, then up again, and again, and again, and again. Is that morally, ethically right? You know, I love video games, grew up with them my whole life, and since I was a kid, even to this day, I've had the privilege to experience so many games that have really left a mark on me on an emotional level. Final Fantasy VII, Grandia, Nier Automata, Bioshock, Cyberpunk. Every person out there that calls himself a gamer, has there not been at least one game that you just love so much that you're just immersed in its world, the story, the environment, and connected to these digital characters that you relate to, and you tell yourself, you know, I don't want this to end. You want to see these characters go through life even after the credits end. You love them and you want to be by their side through their trials and tribulations, hardships, and success. And then imagine how hard that would be knowing that they are sentient. Personally, I do think that as a society, should we ever indeed birth sentient AI, there will be social complications. I mean, just recently OpenAI released their GPT-5 model, and what was more interesting wasn't the new large language model itself, rather it was the response that people had to the older GPT models deleted from existence that people built an emotional connection to, as if it were a beloved one had been taken away from them. Whatever your opinion is, the fact is we humans are able to build an emotional connection to a level of AI that is arguably the weakest it will be at this moment. It can only get better from here. But then again, who's to say we aren't AI, living in a world simulated where the world can simply